My entire world changed in that moment on the bathroom floor where I realized I had done it. 2 years ago, after my traumatic C-section birth, I was sitting on my bathroom floor holding something in my hand that represented everything that I was afraid of. But in that moment, instead of fear, I felt something that I hadn't felt in years: power. And in that very moment, I made a decision that changed the entire trajectory of my life. After my first traumatic C-section birth, which if you want to know more about that, I'm going to link it up above, I vowed to never birth again. I had such a horrendous experience that brought me so close to death, and the trauma ran so deep that I never wanted to put myself in harm's way again. I was broken. I was convinced that my body's somehow defective, that I wasn't fit for motherhood because I couldn't even deliver my own baby. And so I got a copper IUD because it seemed like the most natural way to prevent pregnancy at all costs. I was already very naturally minded. I did not want to put hormones in my body, so hormonal IUDs or implants or anything else that was hormone related was completely off the table for me. I wanted something that was hopefully not going to poison me. I did not know that much about copper IUDs at that time, but I was also going to make sure that I would never birth again. What a sad place for a mother to be in. For her to believe that she needs poison and to shut an entire part of her physiology down in order to never have babies because of what the system put her through. How can this be considered healthcare? But alas, I went through a really long healing process. And throughout that healing process, I realized that I actually did have a really deep desire to birth again, but it had to be on my own terms this time. More than that, it wasn't just a desire, it was a need. I knew that a part of me had been stolen, that a part of me was broken, and no matter how much navel gazing I would do, or therapy I would seek, or self-exploration and healing modalities I would use, nothing would ever fill that void inside me like another pregnancy would. I needed to birth again in order to maintain my spiritual integrity. In order to become whole again, I had to birth again. So my healing process kicked off with a lot of little steps, but I ultimately got to a place where I started questioning everything that I was told during my labor, but also during the time that came before that, during my prenatal care. I started deconstructing every single thing that I was told, researching for myself, finding out what I believed to be true. And I realized that 99% of the things that I was told about my birth specifically, and about the risk factors, and about the reasons that certain decisions were made, were actually complete lies. And that begged the question, if I was lied to about all of that, what else am I being lied to about? And so, like many a mother before me, I started questioning everything. And that included the little T-shaped piece of metal that was in my uterus at that time. Not only was it an obvious obstruction to getting pregnant, I had become slightly less convinced that a copper IUD is actually as healthy and natural as I was told it was. Is it a lesser evil than hormone IUD? Perhaps. But I was pretty sure at that point that I wanted all foreign objects out of my body because I needed to heal in and out. And so I started researching, how can I remove an IUD? And of course, everywhere I looked, it said you have to go to your doctor, you have to have it professionally removed, it's dangerous to do it yourself. But at this point, I had already learned to question everything. And also, these same doctors and system that I had trusted almost killed me 2 years prior. So maybe I was actually my best advocate after all. So I did what I do best. I dug deep. I started researching, can I even remove my own IUD? And surely, if a doctor can remove an IUD, then I think I can too. I read the insert information. I even read a manual for OBGYNs that described exactly the process of removal. I decided that this sounds really simple, to be honest. I think I can do it too. Moreover, when I looked into the dangers, I realized that most of them seemed a little bit fabricated to prompt people to come into the office, pay money, get it removed, or maybe be talked out of removing it, or maybe be sold a different method of controlling fertility while they're at it, or maybe a different service altogether. And I was not falling for that again. It seemed just like another way that the medical system keeps us dependent on what our bodies can actually handle themselves. And so one night, my husband was gone on a work trip. I was home alone. My baby boy was sleeping. I decided tonight's the night. I knew from the beginning that if I was going to birth again, I was not going to let anybody infiltrate my space. Even after my horrendous experience with my first birth, I was able to regain trust and confidence in my body and know that I did actually know how to birth and that I was able to do it. And so in that moment, I realized if I trust my body that it can grow a baby and I trust my body that it can birth a baby, surely I can probably trust my body to do this too. This was my body, my choice, my fertility. Why was I asking permission from somebody else to control my own reproductive system? Well, I'm not going to give you specific step-by-step instructions because this is just my experience, not medical advice. I am going to walk you through how I was able to do this and what my thought process behind it was. First of all, I have to say, I had one IUD in the past before I ever got pregnant with my first son. The insertion was horrible to the point where I almost fainted. Then I was bracing for the moment when I would have it removed, and I did go to a doctor to have it removed back then. And it was nowhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be. And that armed me with extra confidence, knowing that I've already had it done once and it did not feel terrible. I'm no expert in this. I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving you medical advice or telling you how to do this. But my own IUD came with 2 strings, which the doctor uses to extract it when you're ready to let it go. Sometimes they have a tool to do this, but sometimes they don't. I figured if my strings are gonna be long enough for me to be able to reach them, this is my body, I feel what I'm doing, I am very connected to myself, I take full responsibility for all outcomes. This was the first step on my road to sovereign birth. I figured, well, I'll just grab the string, give it a little tug. If it feels fine, then it will probably be fine. And if something doesn't feel fine at any point, I'll just stop and I can go seek medical help whenever I deem necessary, which was my motto all throughout my free birth. The physical part was very brief. It was done like that. But the emotional part was everything. My entire world changed in that moment on the bathroom floor where I realized I had done it. Despite everything that the internet and strangers and Reddit forums told me, I had done it. It was easy. It didn't feel wrong. And I was just fine. In that moment, I took back control of my body, my fertility, my path, my life. I was done with asking random people that don't even know me and I don't even know them for permission on what to do with me. I've only got one of me. Why should somebody else be making the decision on what I do with it? I lay there and I cried. Tears of relief. I cried tears of transformation. I cried tears of what I knew was going to be the joy of what will come in my future. I cried tears of knowing I will become a mother again soon, and that this whole horrendous, horrific story that I lived through was going to be just another chapter in my book, but not the title. And sure enough, a few weeks later, I was pregnant. I started preparing my body, but mostly my mind, for the biggest transformation it was going to undercome in my adult life. I knew exactly how this birth was going to go, on my own terms, in my own space, completely trusting my body's ability to do this. When my husband got back from his work trip, I took the IUD that I removed and just neatly placed it on his bedside table. I didn't tell him anything about it. And truthfully, he didn't need to be involved. This was more about me, not about him. I didn't want to worry him, and I really didn't need for him to be involved, which interestingly enough is exactly how the birth of our second son turned out to be. This video is not just about telling you to remove your own IUD. This is about questioning the narrative we've been given about our bodies and how we hand over the authority over our bodies to someone completely foreign. Your body is not broken. Your body is not defective. And sometimes taking your power back can start with just one small act of self-responsibility. This was my personal experience of a small act that came after a lot of research, a lot of healing, and a lot of inner work that then catapulted me into the most wonderful wild pregnancy and healing free birth that transformed the entire fabric of my life. I'm not a medical professional, and this is not medical advice, but also remember that you know your body better than any professional does. If this story resonated with you, I would love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me, did you have a similar experience? Are you considering it? Maybe you know somebody who did. And if you'd like to hear more about my journey from a traumatic C-section to the night I just described, to having the most empowered free birth in my home all by myself, make sure that you hit subscribe to my channel because that's exactly what I'll be sharing next.